My name is Willem de Jong and I'm from Rotterdam, Holland. The beauty of Holland is it's very multicultural. That's the beauty, but it also brings a lot of problems, I think, a lot of different groups. Holland is a very liberal country. We have coffee shops where you can buy hash and weed, and the government allows it. So a lot of young people get in contact with that. Even close to schools, you will find those coffee shops. Prostitution is very open. We have in a lot of the cities in Holland, we have the woman sitting behind the windows and on the streets, and it's all allowed because of the liberal way of thinking in this country. Yeah, I was raised in a Christian family. My dad was a pastor, so from a young age. They teach me about God. I went to the church. I was also very rebellious. From a young age, I was always in trouble, always fighting and stealing. I was stealing money from my parents, from my grandpa. I think around 13 or 14 years, I started using marijuana, smoking weed. And I liked it very much, using drugs. So it was a roller coaster for me. I started using drugs, started selling drugs, using ecstasy pills. I come from a good family. My parents were together. I came from a Christian home. My dad was a pastor. So it was not of my background that I fell into drugs. I think it was in my character. When I started to use drugs, right away it was without limitations. So I was always looking to the edge, going over the edge. It had also a lot to do with my curiosity. I was looking for it. I was in the house scene, the house music, rave music, and so I was taking the ecstasy pills and speed. In the beginning, when I was start using speed, in the group of friends, I was the only one who was really taking it to another level, so to say. And there was one friend, and because I don't want to use it alone, I don't want to stay up all night alone. So I was giving him extra in his drinks, but he didn't know that. And later on, he lost his mind. In Holland, you need to go to school until your 16th birthday. So all the schools, they kicked me out. My parents gave me the choice: or you stop this lifestyle, or you leave the house. So I chose to leave the house. So there I lost my family, so to say, the family home, and start living with a friend of mine. So I worked 3 or 4 days, and then from Friday till Sunday I was partying, taking pills, snorting the speed. Also start using sleeping pills. So in combination with alcohol, sleeping pills and speed. My weekend was like, I started on Friday or Thursday, and Sunday I stopped using. When I woke up Monday, everything I have done, I forgot everything. It was like a black hole. But that was the result of the sleeping pills in combination with the alcohol. So I did that for a few years, and that it worn me out. It was a very intense lifestyle. Sometimes I came back on Monday and my clothes there were blood on my clothes, or things, I lost things. So I think around 18 years old, I had that lifestyle for 2 or 3 years. And then I start with cocaine and heroin, and start smoking on the bass pipe, and the smoking heroin. And so that was a change in my addiction, so to say. I lost my job. Even in the time I started to work for myself, by the age of, I think I was 18, started to work for myself for a short period of time, but I lost it too because of the drugs. I had a girlfriend back then. I managed to get a house together, but she left me, so I left the house too. In the end, I lived in my car. That was the only thing I had left. Yeah, I was sitting in crack houses, walking on the street, and we were walking on the streets, and saw some people, and it was quick. We will rob them. Sometimes when people were taking money out of the bank, cashing money, we take the money away. For the last 2 years, I start hearing voices. I don't speak to people anymore, but I hear them think in my head, and it was always negative towards me. So that really drove me crazy. So I was getting very paranoid. That became very bad. And sometimes I was running on the street thinking that everybody was against me and was following me, and I couldn't be around people anymore. One time I was it was in the middle of a park, and sometimes you go outside and start taking drugs. And one moment, a big guy came, and he took me away in the darkness, because it's very dark, and he put me on the ground. But the drugs was kicking in, so I was not really aware what was happening. And the guy came with a knife on my throat. Because of the flow of the drugs, I was in my head. I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna die. This is it. That's what I remember. But he was robbing me. When I was using, and that sometimes I was calling my dad, because he was a pastor, man of prayer. So when I was really losing my mind, and I was in sometimes a very bad trip, and in fear, then he would come and he would pray with me. Yeah, that was the only thing that could give me rest. But that happened a few times, but I wasn't ready to change. And there was one moment, and I was somewhere in my car, and in the middle of the night, my heroin was. I smoked heroin, and I feel so terrible. And I called my dad. I said, okay. I told him I always denied to him that I was addicted to heroin. He knew I was using drugs, but now I was telling him, so okay, that I'm addicted to drugs, and I need help. That moment that I give him that phone call, I think that was the moment that the change started. I keep on using drugs because I was bound, but now my dad was running for me and was looking for me, and to different options. And then he came with a magazine with Victory Outreach. I think he contacted Victory Outreach. So I came to a service of Victory Outreach, church service. It was on a Friday. I was not really ready to change, but I came to the church service. I was sitting there, and I don't know, the guy was preaching, and I was listening to it. Then the altar call came, and I didn't came to the altar call, and Pastor Jerry from Rotterdam, he said, okay, come to the altar call. So I came. He asked me, where can I pray for? So I was looking at him, I don't know. But he was persisting. I said, okay, where can I pray for? So the only thing I could say, so okay, I want to be happy, because I was not happy. I was using drugs from 14 years old, and I was never happy. Always into trouble, always problems, losing my mind. And he prayed, and I felt, and I stood back up. I said, why you pushing me? But that was my first contact with Victory Outreach. Then I left, and 2 weeks later, I came into the home. So the day that I needed to go to the home, I sold my car. That was the last thing I had. I had a business, I lost my business, I lost my house, my girlfriend, everything. The last thing I had was my car. And I came into the home, and I thought, this is a crazy place. This really crazy place. So I thought by myself, okay, I'm gonna stay here for 2 weeks. I was very thin. I weighed 56 kilos.
My name is Jerry Mendelssohn. I'm the pastor of Victory Outreach Rotterdam, and I met Willem in 1999. He came to our home, messed up on drugs, on heroin and cocaine, very skinny and paranoia. He was very, very paranoid.
I'm gonna regain some strength, and I'm gonna leave this place, because they were all talking, oh, God has a plan for your life, and I thought by myself, no, I don't want this. This is too much for me. But after all those years using drugs, it was very intense stopping with it, and I was really broken. And I think after 2 weeks in the home, God really touched me. In those first 2 weeks, I didn't want to participate. I had my Bible, but I don't want to open it. Still the rebellious little young man. I was 22 years old. It was so hard, and there was one moment we had our little service there with, we had 7 guys in the home. We sang a song, it's As a Deer that pants for water. And while we sing that song, I thought by myself, okay, let me sing the song. Let me participate. And the moment I started singing that song, God touched me. And I was 2 weeks in the home. And I was looking at the guy, so man, I feel it.
He got touched, the Holy Spirit touched him, and Willem, he decided to stay, to give God a real, a chance or an opportunity. He decided, because he made a plan, and like every one of us, we come into the home and then we plan, well, I'm going to stay a month, I'm going to stay maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then I'll take off. So, but then he made a choice to stay. And God did a miraculous work in this young man's life.
And that in that moment, I knew God loved me, and I knew that God called me. It was after 2 weeks, and that was the moment that God changed me. I never fell back again. I started running after the call of God. It was like God grabbed me, bam, and I knew He loved me, and I said, okay, God, if this is you, I will follow you. And I started reading my Bible. I never read anything, even at school. I never participated. But when God touched me, I started reading the Bible, and I totally changed. The direction of my life was changed. I went to the home, and it was a small home in the beginnings. I think it was 1998, so the home just started in Rotterdam. So after a few months, I got challenged already, and I got a challenge to preach and to start helping, and I was hungry for it. I knew that God called me from that moment on. And there was one scripture that God gave me that was, I will give you a hopeful future. And I had nothing what could give me a hopeful future. I had no diplomas, nothing. I lost everything. So I believed that scripture. That I read it and I believed it.
My name is Sanna de Jong. One of the things that when we first started working together and getting to know each other, one of the things I admired the most in him is that he was very passionate about God, very passionate about ministry. He always pursued whatever God wanted him to do. It didn't matter what the cost or what the circumstances. He always found a way to give his best to God.
1 year in the home, and I was challenged to work with the youth. So I became a youth leader. God gave me a lot of challenges, and I took them. I started growing, and in the whole process, God was changing me, but always felt the calling, the responsibility of the call. And I think that was, even now when I'm with the home of sharing my story with other people. I think the love of God and the call of God, those are the two things that will drive you. Whatever happens, it kept me there. And so I got challenged as a youth leader. The home was first at my pastor's house, then it moved to another facility. The home grew. It was like 35 men back then. And I stayed with my pastor for 1 year. I was a driver and helped him. And then the challenge came to become a home director. When I was 25 years old, I became a home director. There were 40 men in the home. And I think there God really started mature me, strengthen me, and grow in authority.
He became a man of God, secure, knowing his calling, know where he's strong at, and it's a blessing. He's a blessing to Victory Outreach International. Let me say that, because he helps a lot in doing stuff for Victory Outreach Europe.
I lived in the home for 12 years altogether, so for a long period of time I was a home director. My wife, when we got married, right away we got into the home. She came all the way from Amsterdam, and we got married. So after I lived in the home, we bought a house. So that was really a special moment for me, because I never had I had a house for a moment in my drug life, but I lived in the home for so long, and then we bought a house and we redecorated it. So that was really special for me. It was really an achievement, especially where I came from.
I admire about him the most, I always tell him, his modesty. I think that's really something great. In Dutch you have a saying, bescheidenheid siert je, meaning that you don't always have to be the one on the front row, being seen by everyone. And I think that's what God used also in his life when in his development process, to focus on the inside and not so much on the outside. So and I know that's where we're a lot different, because I came out of a background with theater and really presenting yourself, even though I wasn't really confident about myself. That was my background, and his background is more like being sober and being modest. So, but I think that's where we influence each other, and where he influenced me in my walk with the Lord, to really focus on the things that matter to God and the things that are unseen.
The whole period I was assisting also in an assisting pastor in the Church of Rotterdam. Now I'm also assisting the other regional pastors in Europe, and so that's something new. So God is always giving me new challenges. I have a degree now, so God blessed me with that. I became a professional photographer also, so I have a degree in that too. I was a home director in the beginning of the years, but now I also was able to build up a business. There's so many ways God blessed me. I remember I was working in the home, and I was helping a little bit in the office, and I was thinking to myself, it would be good if I one day have my own office. So all those thoughts through the years, God gave it. God provided. He gave me a beautiful wife. He provided for a house. Even when a lot of people say when we got married, no, you don't need to go in the home. It's not good for your marriage. But I was in the home, and I thought, no, this is what God wants for us. But we had nothing. Even with I remember with our marriage, somebody blessed me with 25 guilders. It's not a big amount of money, but every time someone blessed me with a little bit of money, God spoke to my heart, okay, give it. I will take care of your wedding day. So, but all those little amounts that I gave, God took care of my marriage.
So to me, Willem is someone that is strong, anointed, very passionate, and strategic, a very strategic leader. but also has a heart for people, a heart for God, and just loves God and loves the ministry.
His faithfulness. His faithfulness. Yeah.
I was not looking for a job. I was not looking for stuff. I wanted to serve God, and but in serving Him, I really have seen that He is providing. So, and also the challenges. He still challenged me to grow, even now with what's happening here in Europe, the changes. God is doing something new, and for me to be a part of that. If it wasn't for Victory Outreach Home, I don't know. Probably I was still using drugs. Even when you look at the Dutch system, and they gave free heroin. So I'm very grateful for Victory Outreach and for the home, a place where I could change and could receive the calling of God. And that's something I'm grateful to. That the purpose, the vision, that I think that's one of the most powerful elements in Victory Outreach. That the vision, the purpose. Yeah.